totally irresponsible parenting.
Not according to the internet.
Where on the internet?
Dax, it's time for your bath.
But I missed my show.
Don't argue with me, young man. Just do it.
This is our dad.
I'm the professor.
Yeah, he made us in his laboratory by accident. Don't worry, Professor. I was an accident, too.
You're my children, and I love you, but you're all terrible.
Everybody is going to talk, because that's my rule. Everybody talks. So I am Sarah Hanisco. I am your moderator for this panel, Family Gaming. You can find me on Geek Parenting Podcast, Heroes Feast Podcast, where a bunch of nerds get together on their lunch break and play D&D. And then also Push My Buttons Podcast, which is a brand new podcast I'm doing with Luke Hunsaker. But I'm just your moderator. We're here to listen to these fantastic people. So we'll just go down the row. Everybody can introduce yourself and where we can find you on social media or elsewhere.
I'm Candace Tarkisian. I've been a public speaker for a little over 10 years, focusing mostly on video games and Marvel. And you can find me online. I am running my own homeschool with a geeky slant to it called @LearnExplorador.
All right, I'm Jean. You can find me on social media with Jean Loftychild. That's both my Snapchat and my Instagram. Instagram's all sorts of dark, emo stuff, so have fun with that. And I am the token teenager of this panel.
I'm Curtis. The easiest way to find me is my website, my publishing company, DireCorgyGames.com. I've been writing games for a significant amount of time and raising kids. Yeah, well, some of them are a little older than others.
I'm Mitch O'Dell from Geek Hangout, Utah. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm not a teenager, but I act like one usually, so.
With you on that one.
He does.
I'm Rob Neal. I'm the token bald guy on the panel. I can be found on social media at Shadowrunner on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also can be found at Dr. Bolt's Comics, judging games for them.
All right, so I'm going to start with a super easy question. What was your favorite game to play as a kid growing up? And why? Donkey Kong? Why?
It was just fun.
Okay.
Trying to get through all the missions as fast as you can. It was great.
Okay.
Joust.
Ooh. Okay.
I was horrible at it, but I loved it. Then Gallagher.
Oh.
Gallagher's hard. Pit. It's actually like this exact copy of Pit. I was an only child and adopted, and so we had exactly 3 players all the time. And my mother didn't believe in face cards. So I grew up learning to corner the market with Pit, and that stuck with me.
Mine was Pathfinder. That was the first game that I was really allowed to play that was board game sort of style. Yeah, I've got a level 20 character.
Nice.
Epic.
When?
Rita. My first character.
I don't remember, because it's been a long, long time.
You can say marbles. We won't say
No. I remember playing Pac-Man a lot, Street Fighter a lot. Joust was a favorite. Donkey Kong was great. I got into Dungeons and Dragons really, really early. And so I've been doing mostly role-playing games for the last 35-ish years.
Nice.
And my first 2 characters were Bert and Ernie.
Oh, wow.
So I've been playing a long time.
Fantastic. So tell me, growing up, what kind of games did you play with your families? And what kind of impact did that have on you growing up?
I will go first, I guess. Pathfinder. That's how I kind of learned how to do math a little bit, was helping create characters. Yeah, and I am part of the Pathfinder Society group now because he dragged me into it.
I'll take the blame. My parents didn't actually do much for games. I don't remember playing a whole lot with my parents growing up. I remember playing Mule, which should bring back ancient memories for anybody who remembers it. But that was about it. I did play a lot with my brothers, and we played a lot of BattleTech. We did play some D&D. We didn't have really good rule sets, so we made up most of it, which was okay. It was a lot of fun. But most of my social time was with my siblings and friends rather than my parents.
Yeah, my parents didn't do much with gaming either, board games or video games, so it was usually kind of trying to go over to my friend's house to play like NFL Blitz on their Nintendo 64 or something.
And I was an only child for a very long time, so my parents and I didn't play a lot of games. In fact, like I told a panel yesterday, my mom tried to have me committed once for playing D&D. It was awesome. It was not. But
Satanic
friends,
scare.
Hmm?
Satanic scare.
A satanic panic.
Just a little bit. But friends and I would play video games. We do some board games, a lot of Uno, War, Billy Bourne.
I actually grew up with Clue a lot. That was one of my favorites, and I brought in Master Detective and Great Museum Caper in case any of you guys have not seen them and are interested in kind of the older, different versions that came out in the 80s. I now collect these because of that, and yet it's not something that we play at home very often at all. If we do anything at home, we're doing classic gaming, video game varieties. So my kids all know how to use the Retro Duo. They all know how to fire up the old systems. But yet I have these boxes and boxes of games that sit there because I can't let them go. They've just always been a part of who I am.
So most of you are parents. You're not, but you can still answer this question. What do you think the role of games is in helping bring a family together, or to learn more about each other, or to even teach kids certain lessons? What role do you think they take? What roles do you think what rules or lessons do you think your kids have learned as they played games as family?
Balance. I think balance is a huge deal, and it's something that we don't learn well enough as children without help, without an opportunity to go out and try something that we can fail in a context where there is no long-term damage. Right now, there is such a high availability of things that will damage a child that it is really hard to have that practice for adult living. My 15-year-old daughter, she actually was just on the panel previous to this one. She's been playing Persona 5 to work on time management. These are things that if she screws up her time management in her real life, it's going to have serious long-term damage. If she screws it up in a game, it may hurt a little bit as far as the emotional impact, but she's not going to throw off the course of her life.
And creativity nowadays with games. I mean, Minecraft, even to like your adult games with Fallout now. I mean, everything's about building, being creative, making kind of new things and new worlds. So.
One of my favorite things is when my daughter wakes up before me, gets on Minecraft, and starts building little graveyards with zombies that are buried underneath the ground. She's 5. She's a genius.
As I mentioned in the panel previous, because I was also on that one, there's a lot of trust that gets built, especially if you are playing with the child, because I can talk to him about like literally anything at this point, because I feel comfortable because we bonded over gaming, which is something that we both love to do.
There's a lot of games out there you can teach just about any lesson you want. Most of the games that I play are social games. So it's a nice environment to learn how to interact, how to work with a team, how to solve challenges together, and things like that. It was interesting, I mentioned that my family didn't really play a whole lot when I was growing up with me, but how they approached the topic is an interesting one that I'll get to eventually. It's kind of interesting how my parents, on my mom specifically, because my parents got divorced when I was young, and my grandma on my dad's side, how they approach the same issues differently.
For me, I've got twin 6-year-olds, so it's not only teaching them lessons within the game, but also teaching them how to share, how to, especially if it's a game that's only one player, how to alternate and take turns so that they aren't hogging the game for themselves and then their sister doesn't get to play. But within the games, they're teaching them lessons of how to do things on their own, how to think outside of the box, and explore.
What kind of games are you guys playing with your families right now?
Pathfinder.
We play a lot of Pathfinder. We play Starfinder. We do play a few games on computers together, but not a whole lot. Most of ours are more role-playing games than anything else.
That's fantastic. I wish I could get my 5-year-old to play with me.
I'll teach you how.
That'd be great.
Let's see. Candy Lane has been a big one lately. Chutes and ladders. I've been teaching the girls over the past couple of years how to play HeroClix. What we're doing is just a very basic game. It's just numbers. We don't deal with power, so it's just basically you hit or you didn't hit. And then it shows them also how to move around a map where they can and can't go. And it's also good for math skills because they have to add dice rolls to character stats. We've also started doing a game called Telltale, which are cards with pictures on them, and you go through the deck, making up a story based on whatever card comes up.
That's
And
fantastic.
they actually like that one a lot. I had to fight them to get this out of the house today. I won.
Barely.
Barely. Well, yeah, it's 2 of them, and I'm sure.
Exactly.
My kids are kind of to that age where they hate playing with each other right now. So I kind of divide my time and spend time with each of them. So like my daughter, she likes playing Skyrim, so I'll sit with her and help her play Skyrim. My older son, he loves Minecraft, so we'll get on and play Minecraft together. Then my youngest son, he's all over the map. He likes to play fighting games and Minecraft sometimes and just kind of splits it all. So I just kind of divide my time between the 3 of them individually.
Kim, how about you?
I didn't catch
What
the
are you
question.
playing with? What are you guys playing as a family right now?
Oh man, we tend to kind of take turns and play support off of each other while everybody else is playing a 1-player. We're doing a lot of Overwatch right now. My 15-year-old hit top 500 for PS4 this past season, and that I actually think that was kind of a family journey that we went on. It takes a lot. As far as things that we're playing cooperatively, we've been playing a lot of You Don't Know Jack. I am that mom.
I don't know that one. Tell me about that one.
It's some pretty irreverent trivia.
Oh,
I can't recommend it as a family game for all families. But if you have no problem not sheltering your child, and if language is not an issue, then highly recommended.
Okay.
So yeah.
So, we talk about games that we play with our families and our kids. I struggle with my daughter Lily because she loves games like Bendy and the Ink Machine and Five Nights at Freddy's, and she's just into this one called Baldi's Basics, which has got to be the worst game I've ever seen in my life. What do you guys do when your family members or your kids want to play a game that you just either don't approve of or don't want to play because it looks terrible or anything like that? How do you approach that?
We have very specific limits. My daughter, again, the one that's 15 now, when Persona 4 came out, it was a really big deal for us. And there's a very young character named Nanako in that. And my husband and I were both doing panels at the time. We were actually doing panels sanctioned by Atlas Games, which is a huge deal. Like that took a lot of work to make that happen. We allowed our daughter to cosplay as Nanako. We even have photo shoot photos where I've had to reassure people that she wasn't actually being hurt. I had family members come after me for that. It was a big deal. And because of that, she was super interested. She's only started Persona 4 in this past year because there are some themes where we have to, as parents, decide what can my kid maturely handle. My kids can handle a shoot 'em up all day, and I don't have to worry about them being violent. But if there's some kind of a psychological thriller aspect, I do have to kind of check in with them. I have to make sure, and if something is not right, we have a conversation about it, and we have a conversation about why we're setting it aside. And maybe we can come back and try it again in 6 months. But if they are showing signs that their mental health is deteriorating over a game, it's gone. We just don't mess with that.
How about you guys?
I agree most with what you said. My kids growing up, I've got 2 daughters. This is my older one. My younger one's 13, and they mature in different aspects at different ages. The only way you're really going to know how your kid's doing is watching, being involved. And so, in our family, violence again is not really a big issue. First-person shooters isn't their style, but they can watch action movies and things like that and not have a problem with it. Horror hits them very differently, especially my younger daughter. It freaks her out. So, we avoid it. She can't handle some of the I don't want to use the term more adult because it has some negative connotations on it, but she just doesn't handle some of the other concepts as well as my 16-year-old. So you got to be involved with your kid, and you base your games, whatever you game, around what they can handle and where they can handle it. And then the most important thing that I've had with my kids is a simple statement of fact. I'm not going to lie to them, and I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I will talk very candidly with them, so that when they do grow up and they have challenges, because every kid does, they'll at least talk to me about it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think communication is kind of key. I mean, just try to discuss things, discuss why it's okay, why it's not. And even things that you think are okay, make sure you're discussing it with them, so then you kind of know that they are getting it rather than just assuming.
To go to the first question, we do pretty much at 6 just go yes, no. And that carries a lot of weight. That may disappoint them, but I'd rather them be disappointed than have to deal with a larger problem further down the road. As far as other themes, you made the point about children maturing differently. It's also interesting to watch how that happens at the same age. One can handle certain things far better than the other, and vice versa. And we've run into that with TV shows, movies, games. So it's trying to find the balance between how do we introduce a concept and something that's not going to throw one completely off the rails while the other would thrive, or both of them just go completely and freak out about it. So finding some kind of mid-ground for that. And a lot of communication, not just between us and the kids, but also between my wife and me, to make sure that we're in agreement that this is a good thing, this is a bad thing, or maybe they're ready for an aspect of this or not. And even with like video games, they get limited time. So it's like you can play this for this long today, or you can earn time to do this over the weekend. And that kind of helps to keep them from just going, I just want to have my face stuck in the screen all day.
Yeah, well, and with what we did, I watched my parents play their games, and that really showed me, okay, yeah, that's not really my aspect of gaming, or yeah, I'd love to play that. It really depends on learning, because I'm a nosy child. Let me just say that. My name was Snoopy for a while because I just love knowing everything. So I watch people. That's what I do. And, seeing how their gaming affected me and them, it showed me, okay, don't really want to do this because it gets them mad. So I'm twice as likely to get mad. But hey.
So you talk about getting mad. I know with my kid, she's 5, the hardest lessons that she's learning right now in games is how to lose. So how do you deal with your family members or your kids when they're learning that lesson? How do you kind of coach them to not throw a fit or say, I'm not playing this anymore because I can never win? How do you guys handle that? Or how do you handle with your friends if you're playing something, teaching them to lose gracefully?
Well, it really is just take care of your own mental state first. Play the games that you want to play just fine, but be able to say, okay, let me take a breather. Let me see how this is actually affecting me tomorrow. Something like that.
I try to emphasize working harder and practicing to get better. If you don't succeed the first time, you just try it again. And video games are great for that. You can try most games over and over until you get it.
One of the challenges that we have is that we have 2 kids that are the same age, and their skill levels vary for different things. One is great at shooting style games. They're both pretty good at puzzle style games, so that's not so bad. But watching one do something and the other one's like, I can't do this. I'm like, she's been playing this longer than you, or she's done this more than you have. And just trying to go, it's okay to lose, or it's okay to fail at this challenge. Try it again. If you need help, let me know. I'm happy to help you and kind of talk you through something. Another game that's good for that is Disney Infinity.
Oh,
yes. Absolutely.
And I was really sad when that crashed.
That's a
because
favorite in our
girls love this
household.
game.
Yeah. That's a great game. Also, we were talking about that creativity piece where you also have the challenges of the storylines, but you also have the creative piece where you're in the world building as well. So it's a great game to teach.
It was really something that I started with probably far earlier than they should have. But I would just build giant toy boxes that they could just run around in and interact with an environment that I created.
Oh,
And
that's a
if
great
they
idea.
asked for something, I could put it in or take it out if it was too hard for them to do something, which was really great because then they could just go, okay, well, I can't do this now. Can you put more or less of this in? And it just became a dialogue. And they haven't really done any of the play sets yet, but there are some of the user-created games that they'll go through and they'll play and they'll do some of the challenges in those. And those have been really good for them to just kind of build up confidence and skills with just those challenges, and then I can kind of look at those and go, are they ready for this or not yet as a next step?
I love that you mentioned that you have to kind of communicate with them as to what they're needing, because that's what we've run into. Even though Siren has hit that top 500, that was not overnight progress, and we've had multiple opportunities where she's come back from it very upset. She does have social anxiety disorder. This is not like something that's hidden. She knows that I bring that up. Like, I'm not outing somebody there. One of the things that happened when she first started is that she got upset, really upset, jarred, shaken, and we had to have that kind of communication where you ask, okay, well, are you upset that you lost? Yes. Why are you upset that you lost? Because that's the bigger thing. And when she first started out, she was upset because she felt that she should be better at the game. Later on, months later, when she had progressed and she was up in about Grandmaster rank, she had a similar reaction to losing a game. And I kind of thought, okay, this is unusual. We communicated about that too, and I said, okay, so are you upset that you lost? Yeah. Why are you upset that you lost? Well, because this boy said he was going to dox me.
Oh.
So that becomes the bigger thing for me, is communicating not just a fear of losing or not being good enough, but where is that fear coming from and what can we address? How can we reassure our children especially that they're safe, that gaming can be safe?
Well, and that's a huge issue with my daughter. She likes to play Roblox, which is online with other people.
Yeah.
And whenever she's playing that, I am with her because I don't trust other people at all when it comes to that. So how do you deal if your kids are online and playing games with other people online? How do you deal with those kind of safety issues for your family?
We turn off chat for any family member under 10. That's anything online with interaction, unless we are right there and we're the ones doing the interacting, it is shut down. It is not an option.
And I've done that with Overwatch because Lily likes to play Overwatch.
You have to.
All chat is turned off. No vocal interactions with other people. She just plays the game and shoots, which is weird. I know. You're looking at me.
Because the girls watch me play Overwatch. And they're like, can we watch you play that shooting game? I'm like, sure. And they love watching me play it. But I've never thought about letting them actually play.
Oh, she
Yeah,
does.
see, my 5-year-old, he's a Junkrat main, and he loves it. Loves it. We have to turn off both his mic and everyone else's mic. And in part, he does see us with headsets. So he'll put his headset on. He's listening to the sound through the headset.
But he doesn't hear
But
anybody
there's
else.
nothing else going on there because we do know what's happened with us and our interactions. We also know what's happened with our older children. And our older children have definitely had some run-ins that were scary. For the most part, it's been a learning experience, and thank goodness for that, because it does start conversations that you probably wouldn't have otherwise. I had to have a conversation with my 15-year-old about, oh, Mom, you're playing with that guy that I played with the other day. What guy? That pedophile guy. And I said, whoa, hold on. And she went, no, but Mom, it's okay, because he's really nice. And I said, honey, no. That's not the problem that we have with this situation, because you rarely find that somebody is a pedophile and isn't nice. The problem is they're too nice, and what do we do about this? And so then we had to have that conversation, and later on, she was actually able to relay the same information to a dear friend who was going through something similar and was pressured to give out personal information and photographs to somebody that she didn't know. And when she had a friend who was willing to say, hold up, that's not what the problem is. It's okay to tell somebody no. It's okay to shut down an online interaction, even if the person's nice. So it does start those conversations, but they're not easy conversations. They can be super awkward.
They're necessary.
Yeah, and with today's world being as open as it is, we have to have those conversations earlier and earlier. It is becoming a huge demand.
As fast as it is too.
Exactly.
I mean, my 10-year-old's got a cell phone, and she downloaded a singing app that she broadcasts videos, and I wasn't okay with that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you've got to keep on track of what they're getting into and things like that, so you're watching it.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done any family streaming on Twitch or broadcasted any of your games?
I haven't. I want to touch a little bit about
Sure,
my
go
two
ahead.
girls and how I've handled them. First of all, they don't use their real names
Yes.
online. We
Not
use an
even in
alias buffer,
person.
or usually not even in person, just as a layer of protection. And then, just like each kid develops separately, there's some progress in there. Like my younger one loves Animal Jam. Okay, or at least she used to. She hasn't really played it for about 6 months to a year now, but that's a way to get in there and chat. But if you're going to have any interactions at all, and that's a text-only chat, you watch it.
Absolutely.
You're involved.
And I can tell you,
And
I
you let
used
them
to
know.
work at Animal Jam, so they're very, very careful with what
Animal
goes
Jam
through.
is
They
very good about
track
that.
Well, and
everything.
they're really careful
Yeah.
about who they even hire.
yes,
They're
they are.
incredible.
Yeah.
They're, as an example, they're really good. But if you're going to start with a social game, a game where they're online, where they're interacting with other people, start with a safe one, okay? And be very candid with them. Say, hey, there are jerks out there. If you find a jerk, you don't have to talk to him. As a matter of fact, let me know that it happened. Block them.
Yep.
Let's talk about what happens and why those things happen. They're not easy conversations, like I said, but they're necessary ones. You can't pretend those problems don't exist, and you can't hide behind them, and then you get an 18-year-old who doesn't know what to do. Okay? So going step by step, and each child's different, and how to deal with certain things and when to deal with certain things. My younger child has to be a little older than she was when she was that age. She's just not quite ready for some of them. And so she was young. She was a little bit older when she started Animal Jam. She mostly played with friends that I knew. She is on Facebook now. She's old enough. Watch it very closely. I know exactly who she's talking to. Cell phones, both of them have them, and they both know that I have access anytime I want to. And we've talked about some of the threats there. So again, the communication is absolutely critical.
Well, and I think that shows, too, something really important, that sometimes if you set the rules after you've already introduced something, it kind of feels like you're changing the game on them.
Don't do that.
But
I
if you
learned that
set
the hard way.
it like right out the gate, like with the cell phones, our kids know if we call, hey, safety check, they have to turn over their phones, they have to unlock them, everything's right there, and they know we will go through all of it. So I've even had my kids bring their phones in for safety check, and I'll say, is there anything you want to tell me now?
Before I find it.
So that they have an opportunity to talk to me first. And usually, like, we've actually been really lucky, and I think it is because we've set those rules up real early. But there has to be some trust too. So you have to communicate what it is that's expected. And if you are doing safety checks, if you are limiting certain access, you have to be upfront in that, because otherwise, boy, is that a power struggle.
Oh, yeah.
That was not fun.
So I asked about the streaming and that piece of being online, but none of you are streaming with your families right now?
You should try it. It's fun. I would say Siren's done some streaming, and I've done some streaming,
that?
but not together.
Like you and Lily are having fun with it.
Oh, yeah, we're having a blast. We stream a lot of Bendy and the Ink Machine is usually what she wants to stream. So we stream that. But yeah, it's really fun. So if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend streaming with your kid. It gets them a little more interactive. They can talk to people. You can have fun. It's a fun way to game as a family for sure.
We did a little bit when I got my PlayStation Eye with playing in the playroom with that, streaming it on Facebook. But, I mean, that was like a few years ago. So.
Gotcha.
The only thing I've done along that line is when a game called Rift.
Oh yeah.
Video game came
Yeah,
out.
I know Rift.
Yeah, my daughters actually sang a song, and I recorded it, put it on YouTube.
No, we are not bringing this up. We are not bringing this up. Nope.
This was years ago.
Yes.
That got
and
vetoed.
I had so much issues with that. I didn't want to do it to begin with.
Did you play Rift?
Yeah.
Did you play it with your dad?
Yeah.
Was it fantastic?
It was fun. But you scarred me from doing music for a while. Now I'm getting back into it. And
Well, that was definitely not my goal. I thought we had fun. So that communication we were talking about, that would be a good thing.
Yeah. So if at any time any of you guys in the audience have questions, please just raise your hand and we'll let you ask questions as we kind of go along this conversation. Go ahead.
Are there any, I guess, systems for family streaming or games that you would recommend for that?
For me, Lily and I we stream a lot on PS4 because we can stream directly to Twitch. I know Xbox just came out with an in-house streaming system for the Xbox that's fairly easy to use. If you're streaming on Twitch from your computer, you will need something like OBS to capture the images. OBS is a little bit tough to use. It has a little bit of a learning curve, but once you do it, it's great. So it's really easy to stream with family, really on any platform. It just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah, and for older consoles too, you can find workarounds. But honestly, I'm seeing more and more people just doing a dual camera setup. And if you're willing to say, hey, it's retro gaming, this is not going to be HD, a lot of times that's okay because people are just interested in the interactive experience more than, is this in 4K? Like,
even on the old system, I have a Nintendo 64 and I have a capture card. So if you have a capture card, you can do the older systems as well. And I really want to get my daughter playing Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time because I think she would absolutely love it. And it would be at a level that she could probably play and understand it. She plays Breath of the Wild on my Switch, so I'm pretty sure she could handle that. Are there other older games that you guys want to introduce to your family that you haven't yet?
I've been doing Miss Pac-Man, which is hilarious to watch a small child
try to play Pac-Man.
Try and talk through. Bubble Bobble was another one.
Bubble Bobble.
I thought about Super Mario Brothers, the first one in the pipes with the turtles.
Yep.
And then I was like, we'll hold off on that for.
That one's kind of hard. That one's kind of learning curve.
But with like retro gaming, like you mentioned, I've got an inordinate number of main emulations. So I've been just trying to go through and find out ones that would work for them, that would be easy enough to introduce, fun for them to play, and not just completely make them bang their heads against the wall.
Or in the Blind Forest, trying to play that with a 5-year-old. It's really fun. Don't do that. Not a retro game, but still beautiful game. Fun game to play, but don't play it with a 5-year-old. Anyone else? Are there any retro games you haven't introduced yet?
On the older Xbox, I picked up an arcade classics collection and the old Atari collection.
Nice.
These are the games I grew up on. I mean, Super
classics.
Nintendo came out the year I graduated from high school. So retro for me is like 3 colors.
Atari, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there walking them through how to play Adventure, and they're sitting there, Dad, the graphics suck.
You don't even know. Okay, Curtis. Yeah, she's already flinching. She should be. Worked my tail off to get a working copy of Final Fantasy VII, okay? And this was before there were emulators on it and stuff. It was a pain in the butt. You had to get the discs. They had to be in good condition. We had 2 of the discs in good condition, and okay? Not enough to play it. I work my tail off. I put a giant blow-up mattress in the middle of the living room floor. I aim a projector at the ceiling. This is going to be an epic gaming experience. And then I went to the grocery store to pick up popcorn because that's what they wanted for their gaming snack. And while I am in Target, I get a frantic phone call from this one. Mom, you got the wrong one. I don't think I did. I spent months doing this. I'm fairly certain I didn't. No, Mom, it looks so weird. You got the Lego version. And I sat down in the aisle at Target and just cried. People thought somebody had died. It was so embarrassing, and they'll never live it down as long as they live. Never, ever. But yeah, so the graphics struggle is real. I am waiting for the remake on FF7 because I need my kids to finally just sit down and realize, like, I don't care what it looks like. The story is the story. And that way maybe I can get them to go back and play 6.
I love the story of Final Fantasy VII. The worst one I had was the old gold box D&D ones. Anybody else remember those?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I got Pool of Radiance, the first gold box one. Loaded it up on the computer. Here you go, kids. Let's create a party. Create the party, walk into the first fight. They haven't played it since.
So much.
It was awesome.
We'll try doing it with Ultimate.
No, he didn't give us any cheat codes. We had to actually play it.
No, you can't cheat.
Had to. Didn't get to. Had to.
What lessons did you
Mandatory.
learn? That's my question.
We never
That's
get
wicked.
things left down on our end.
No, not ever.
Hey, look, that's just being a kid. Did you learn any lessons from playing that though?
Not to play games that are older than me.
Yeah, they're not much into the retro movement.
Gotcha. I remember I introduced Lily to Duck Hunt, and she loves it. Loves it.
You have
so
to
that's
have
a
like
great
an
game
older
for-
screen though, because the
You
newer
do.
screens
It
don't
looks
track
terrible.
the gun.
I know.
It's such a pain.
Yeah, she does. Just right up to it, and then she tries
Smart
to, of course,
girl.
shoot the dog like we all did.
Right.
Yeah, but that's going back to that older system is last Christmas or the Christmas before, my cousin got one of those little mini Nintendo games that had like
like
20 or
the
23
mini-
games on them.
yeah.
So we hooked it up and we had the kid, like little 5-year-olds and a 3-year-old playing Pac-Man and playing Super Mario Brothers and laughing hilariously every time they fell into lava pits or whatever. I mean, it's great to introduce them to these older games because they're on a different level of what they're seeing today. Like the bendy stuff. That's high graphics, and then kids are introduced to something super simple like Super Mario Brothers, and they just have a blast with it.
But by the same token, one of the games that my girls are loving and have loved for like a year now, that they've gotten good at it, Tetris.
Oh, Tetris.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Originally, actually, they have not played it on the Game Boy. I don't think I've showed it to them on the Game Boy yet, but I've got one of the newer versions of it on the iPad, on the Kindle,
Nice.
but it plays exactly the same. And watching them learn how to do it, because I didn't tell them anything about it other than you need to put the pieces
That's
together,
great
clear
for
a line, and then
teaching
I'll
them how to
walk along.
manipulate shapes and space.
And watching them over the series of months figure out how to go from this is falling, I can't do anything with it, well if I turn it this way or move it over here, this works. Oh look, that line cleared. And at first it was just really, really sick pleasure for me to watch them just go, I can't do this. Because it was like, no really you can, it's okay. They would get frustrated, they would get upset because 5 and 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then they would kind of figure it out. And I also would only give them one device at a time. So they weren't playing Tetris on one and the other. They were both playing together. And they'd get one piece at a time. So they had to work together, which was
That's
pretty
brilliant.
clever.
Yeah.
it was trying
like
because
that.
it was, or sometimes somebody would get a piece and she was really trying to get another one really fast when their sister saw it. And it was like, no, that doesn't work that way.
Right.
And then watching them as they are now, I think that last week, by themselves, they were at like level 8.
Dang.
Tetris is a great one because you get your basic problem solving in there, and it's been around literally forever.
Yeah.
Okay. When I first started in college at the University of Utah, they had Tetris blocks on the bathroom floor. That was really messed with my brain. But I remember my mom when I was in high school playing Tetris, and she, just like everybody else, would sit there and play for a while and then eventually get frustrated, storm out of her bedroom, yell at us, and go back in her bedroom later. So, I mean, it's a wonderful bonding experience. It's a game that's been around for generations. And how to deal with the problem solving, how to organize things. And look at it this way, when you have to pack a suitcase for a trip, you're good.
Yeah.
I worked for an auction management company once, and it was brilliant because we used fairly uniform sized boxes. It's like, that needs to fit in there? Are you sure? We can't do it. Are you sure about that?
Tetris taught me everything.
The only problem is you keep trying to load things from the top.
It's called Tetrising.
There we go, yeah.
Now, you had another question?
I forgot what I was going to say, but it was just another comment.
Okay, well,
That's
let
great.
us
If it comes
know when
back,
you
let
have
us
it.
know. Any other questions so far?
I want to jump in on that last one too, though. It's only one generation obsolete at this point, but I love watching my kids play Tokyo Jungle.
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
What
man.
is Tokyo
Does
Jungle?
anybody in here know Tokyo? Okay, you know Tokyo Jungle, I take it. Yes. Okay. You start out as a very small, I want to say Pomeranian, and it is like a post-apocalyptic Tokyo where you have to find your way out of the apartment first to survive. Then you have only so long before you need clean water, food, and a mate. And if you don't find these things, start over. If you do find these things, you'll bring up a new generation and you get just a little little bit stronger, but so does your environment. And your environment twists until you have things like cougars chasing you and eventually raptors. Like, this is truly an out-of-the-box situation. And it's kind of brutal. For being kind of a low graphic, odd import, it's pretty brutal because you have to hunt. It's rough, but watching these kids take it and kind of go, okay, well, the probability, last time I tried to do this and it didn't work. How do I work on this? It's almost like watching them beta test because they're trying to poke holes in a system. And it's fascinating to watch how their minds have to adapt to it. We really hesitated to let my 5-year-old watch his older sisters play. He's totally fine with it. He grasps it and he's okay with it because he's not looking at, well, the Pomeranian just had its neck broken. He's looking at, the Pomeranian didn't make it on this path. How do I get the Pomeranian there? So it's still a problem-solving issue, but I can't get enough of it. So.
One other thing about Tokyo Jungle, not only does it get more and more difficult, but as there are also essentially climate changes.
Yes.
So as you go along, waves of toxic gas will come into areas as you're trying to get around, and at a certain point, you will just slowly die from that. So you constantly have to be migrating.
Yeah, it's constant adapting, and it is kind of nice watching you kids get tortured with it.
You don't know what's in the next area and who's gonna walk in next time. There have been multiple games in which I have been doing great. I've gone to year 60, and then I get a new generation, and then the food meter for this area is gone, and I step outside, and it's because there is a new lion in town.
And he ate all the food. Like, it all has rational causes when you follow it down. I mean, it's rational as a game with raptors and toxic gas gets, but and robot dogs and all the things that you can.
Conservation of mass.
Yes, conservation of mass. Like, it really is a fun thing to watch them do. But yeah, if you haven't checked it out, super cheap, still pretty easy to find, and you will waste the rest of your year on it. So I did warn you.
Is there a game you've introduced to your family members that they just hated and that just broke your heart?
We talked about me putting up the retro games.
Oh, yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, we're good.
I wanted to dive into that a little bit more, actually.
I don't think my kids
there
have
a
ever
game you
made it
introduced
through
them
all the
to that
Square
they just
Enix or
absolutely
Squaresoft.
loved? That was there a game that surprised you that they loved so much?
Persona 4.
Yeah.
I knew that they were interested in what was going on, but I didn't know if they were actually going to care about the story, and they do. They deeply hold it as a personal thing. It's kind of a touchstone for the family. As terrifying as a game about murder is to have a touchstone for your family. But no, it worked out really well, whereas a lot of our Squaresoft things that Abraham and I bonded over Squaresoft when we were dating, I dare say we might not have the same relationship we have now, nearly 20 years later, if it weren't for things like Parasite Eve and Chrono Cross, and the kids just have not picked those up, and it has not been for lack of pushing. Like, it's happened. I can't say whether or not they hate them, though, because they won't play them.
Gotcha.
So I just don't know, but there's an attempt.
I had an interesting one, okay? As you mentioned, my kids grew up mostly playing role-playing games, but that wasn't really always the case. I know my kids many moons ago loved My Little Pony.
Oh, yes.
I'm sitting there, okay, we can get them started in gaming. My Little Pony card game, we're good to go. Yeah. Here's what happened.
She's
They
like,
were
don't
really
tell the
excited about
story,
it.
Dad. Don't.
They were really excited about it. They started playing it. They ran across some problems that they couldn't agree on what the rules meant. So it was interesting to see how the kids handled it. So did they start yelling at each other? Did they throw fits? Did they trade cards to get what they wanted? They came to the conclusion that this game sucks, we'll just set it aside. So they avoided the conflict by eliminating the reason for the conflict.
Oh, we're just not going to play the game.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a time when your family members made up their own rules for a game? Or tried to? I get that all the time with 5-year-olds.
Always.
That's not how you play
Tell
this.
my boys to make it so she wins.
How do you deal with that when that happens? Do you just
I just have to tell her to knock it off.
Just call them on it immediately. Go.
Yeah.
It's not Calvin ball. You can't just go, I'm doing this, and then we're doing this. It's like, no, that's not part of the game. This is how this is played. And, we'll also have the telltale of, she's not being fair. Okay, well, that's an indication that something has changed out of the dynamic that they were playing, and all of a sudden, new roles been introduced.
That's not how you play the game. Well, it's how we play my game. Great, go play that alone.
Yep.
Well, I'm just going to say that no one actually reads the rules to Monopoly until there is an argument.
That's true.
Almost other cards.
My husband had them memorized. Like Monopoly, Scrabble, like he knows every loophole. I didn't grow up with loopholes. I grew up an only child. I got what I wanted. He grew up with two brothers. He had to resolve all the fights. Like that's been a learning curve for me. I'm not adjusted to that.
We've, as a role-playing family, we've had some interesting things. I was introduced by my uncles to D&D back in the day. And, we played D&D a little bit, but I was, Bert and Ernie didn't do really well, and it wasn't the only thing we played. The other thing back in the 80s was G.I. Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So my uncle and I decided to play G.I. Joe. And you got your standard, I hit you, no you didn't. No, you're Cobra, you can't hit anybody. So we actually developed all the rules, my uncle and I, on how to play G.I. Joe. This particular uncle was only about 5 years older than me. So we'd go out in the backyard. My grandma lived on a ranch, basically a massive, massive farm. We go out in the backyard, take out all the G.I. Joes. We built an aircraft carrier out of lumber, and we just went to town with it. So now translating that to the next generation, so we'll play Pathfinder or something like that, and I'll ask them, what would you do? How would you change that? And we've used it in very, very different ways. Okay, let's not necessarily change the rules. Let's think about a world. Create your own world. Okay? You want to put a dragon out there. Dragon, does gold dragon say, lives in the prairies. What does a gold dragon eat? What happens if you remove these creatures? A lot of meat. But what happens if you remove these things? So we talk about the environment and the ecosystem and the food chains and all of that when we go up to the zoo and talk about them. So what do Hogle Zoo, what's the gold dragon going to eat? Well, the plains eats lots of elephants.
The elephants are in the open, so you can get to them pretty easily. The rhinoceros isn't so bad either.
You got to attack the right side. But you get the gist. We actually analyze school lessons by applying game to it.
Well, and as you mentioned, you teach your kids with homeschool with the video game twist.
Yeah.
I was homeschooled till high school as well. We did the whole, let's go to the zoo, make a chimera, there you go. That's part of the whole process because, hey, that was what we did. That's what
going
we
back
had
to
fun
yours
with.
with Pathfinder, my girls aren't quite at that level yet, but years ago their grandfather had started telling a story about gumdrop pirates. So I'm like, okay, this is great. And he would just tell them bedtime stories using, pirates that were loosely based on the girls. So one night I decided I can tell them a bedtime story using the gumdrop pirates with D&D. So I kind of set up a very loose beginning of Once Upon a Time scenario, and then said, well, if you're going to, so what are you going to do? How do you find this, or where do you go to find this? And let them help build the story, and then advance the story from the narrator perspective a little bit, and then go, what do you do here? Or this shows up, what do you do? And at one point they got to the point of, well, we go into town, we get a wagon, we get all of our things we want to take with us to go find this treasure, and I would throw different animals or people or creatures at them along the way, and then they get there, and in a great bit of game breaking, they decided to befriend the dragon that was guarding the treasure.
That's awesome.
Okay, and it's like not what I thought of, but I like the way you're going, and it just worked, and we just kind of progress from there. So every once in a while, we'll throw one of those out there and just let them understand role playing from that perspective, which will be my gateway to getting into the game.
You guys played Skyrim on
That's what I do with Lily. Is I will just drop her into the middle of Skyrim and say, go make your own story. You can do whatever you want, go wherever you want to go. What if an enemy comes? Run away, kill it. Make your own story.
Solve the problem.
Yeah, figure it out.
Solve the problem your way.
Yeah, that's become our answer for a lot of things. And because at 6, it's like a lot of bantering back and forth with your sister. So it's like we've come to the point of going, that's a kid problem. That does not require an adult to solve.
Exactly. We actually are a big fan of that too. And with Intro to video gaming, we've even incorporated some of that. My 5-year-old was absolutely convinced he was gonna play Fortnite, and I could not stop him. I said, fine, you go right on ahead and try. And he can actually play Fortnite. He has issues where he'll come in and he'll be like, Mom, I lost. Okay, and?
Get good.
Like, yeah, like he's expecting like a pat on the shoulder and, oh, sweetheart, no, go do it again then. Go do it till you don't. Like,
figure out what you did wrong.
Yeah,
Don't do the same thing next time.
Exactly.
It's like
Gaming,
real life.
yeah,
no
gaming
one's
can
going to
be-
give you a pat on the back.
Exactly. Gaming has been such, for those of you who know me, my daughter has a lot of emotional and behavioral issues, and so gaming, especially in the last month, has been such a huge piece in her cognitive, in her CBT, in her cognitive behavioral therapy, is we play games, and that we're at the physician's office and they get out a board game and we play it, and she learns that you're gonna lose sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not just okay, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they have to learn that, you're not going to be great at everything right out of the gate. You may not ever be really fantastic at this. That's all right.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. You
Well,
don't
and
have to be
it's an
good.
important part of many therapies. I personally have PTSD. I use very loud, explosive gaming with a headset to cover up fireworks because they're a trigger for me. This month is not my month. I literally just went out and got myself a new job so I could try to fly to Florida before the 24th for some reason.
don't like pioneers?
My kids have, right? Yeah, no. So my kids have grown up seeing this, and when Siren had her social anxiety take over, and I mean it really took over, we were on the verge of agoraphobia. It was not a happy time. It was a little bit of a scary time. She had to kind of turn to games and decide, how can I find a safe place but not let it become the only place? And so we've used that as a therapy. We've talked about it with therapists. We've had to really make that work, and we've made it work, but again, you have to have a plan. And I feel like I've watched you develop what you're doing with Lily for the past while.
She is a tough one.
And it takes a lot of planning, though.
It does.
You guys, you've been such rock stars together. You and Lily, like figuring it out as you go.
Yeah.
But it's taken work.
Yeah. So we only have a few more minutes. I do want to open it up. Do we have any questions from the audience? Anything at all. You can even ask us our favorite colors. Mine's purple.
My question is with Clue.
Yeah.
Did you watch the movie?
Yes. All the time.
Okay.
See, my kids are well indoctrinated. Yes,
such a good movie.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Now I wish I would have seen it in the theater to see what ending I was going
I
to.
know. There's a DVD option where it can
Right.
randomize it for you
it?
now.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
cool. So we have a question right here, real quick.
Yeah, so what games do you recommend for kids just learning to read? Like I've got her on Pokemon Black right now, and she can kind of sound out the names, and it's good. I mean, if she can understand rock, paper, scissors, it works.
I've become a huge fan of this, even though my girls are reading Telltale. There's a couple of different versions of it. This one is the Fairy Tales version, but this one allows you to just look at the card and just build the story from that. When our girls started reading, we didn't really do a lot of interactive gaming where they had to read rules or anything, so we did things like Candyland. We can see the color, go with that. Chutes and Ladders, it's a number you can add. Like I mentioned earlier, HeroClix, which is a miniatures game, has the numbers, has the stats for the figures on the figure, and you just roll 2 dice and add that to see is it a hit or not a hit. That's also big because that helps with the math comprehension as well.
And also, there's a great app that we use at our house called Starfall, and it's all games, and it's all educational games. It's reading, it's math, it's science. It is a fantastic app that they're playing games and they're learning, but they don't really realize that they're learning.
There's also reading involved with that as well, because
There
there's a
is.
story time portion of that
There is.
as well.
So Starfall is really good.
It's a subscription service, but it's for a year. But it's once you pay the subscription, it's for all of your devices.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And we've tried ABC Mouse, but I don't like that as much as I like Starfall. Starfall is a lot better. It's easily portable. It's great on your phone. It's great on a tablet. It's great on a computer. That's a really great system for kids to learn.
Yeah, we've been using a lot of Disney Infinity, which you will have to like get online and find one because they are gone.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
You can find
it's
them, like,
easy
for
to find them
$3.
though. But they will memorize bits as you go through, and so they'll start getting their sight words off of that. The other thing that's been excellent for sight words, and we did not think it would be, is Stardew Valley.
That's another good one.
The way that it builds has been really good, and for a cheap game, it's been great.
And even with my kiddo, we played. She really loves Undertale, and I have to read her to her, but she will read it with me because most of what's read or said is on the screen.
Like
so she's learning. She's seeing the sight words. She's learning that as well. So any game where you can kind of put the text up on the screen and they can read it with you is a great system to go.
Question I've got. We've got a few kids, all in varying grades and level of abilities. Do we always want to go skew on the low end for the ones that are youngest? Do we want to stay on the high end? Do we want to jump around?
Jump around.
I jump around or I change ability. So one of the things that was really brilliant that was mentioned in one of the tabletop conversations yesterday, it was actually, you were moderating, was the idea of giving the people who need an extra boost, maybe extra HP, or maybe they have an extra item or things like that. If it's something where you have some control, that's a really excellent way to level the playing field without dumbing it down too much for somebody who is going to get bored, or putting somebody in a position where they really can't have fun because they don't know what's happening. So that helps a lot. Or creating teams. So, like your oldest with your youngest, and then like pare it down. It's, when I do that though, it's usually with larger groups. And I force my kids to help kids that they don't even know very often. They don't love it a lot. But I always say that the youngest one is the one that's the decision maker. So the older one has to abide by the rules set by the younger one. It does make it more difficult, but it does make sure that people are having more fun. So you're interactive on a different level.
So we are out of time for this panel, but let's go ahead and we'll start at this end. We'll go down. Just tell us once more what your name is, where we can find you, and we'll head out of here.
Okay, Rob Neal, Shadowrunner on all social media. I can also be found at Dr. Volt's Comic Connection on in Mill Creek.
Mitch O'Dell with UK at Utah. So you can find us on Facebook.
Curtis Baum. The easiest way to track me down is diarycorgigames.com. I'm also on Facebook, but there's more than a few of me. There's many. Apparently I've got a common name, so.
Gotcha.
Gaming Con is also an easy way to get hold of me.
Perfect.
Jane, I go by Jane Laffychild online.
Candace Tarkesian at learnexploreadore.com.
And I am Sarah Hanisko. You can find me on Geek Parenting Podcast, Heroes Feast Podcast, and Push My Buttons Podcast. All over. All right. Thanks for coming, guys. Let's
and you, back here. Back here with the kiddo, sir.
Oren.
Come here.
Here's some money. Go see a Star Wars.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt.
And I'm Trevor. We're the co-hosts of the Nighthawks podcast, a movie podcast for people who like to stay up late.
We've just joined the Hello Sweetie Podcast Network, expanding our podcast empire and bringing the world to its knees.
Take a seat in the Nighthawks diner with us. We're going to talk to you about movies.
We've got new movies, old movies, movies we love, movies nobody loves.
You can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, and at nighthawkspodcast.com.
Hey, that was pretty good. Do you think they'll listen?
The good ones always do.